Okay, in this video, I want to talk about how performance reviews, specifically traditional performance reviews, are killing your culture. Hi, my name is Dr. Robbie Woelkers. I'm one of the physical therapists and co-owners here at Rehab CEOs, and we help physical therapy practice owners grow and scale their clinics. And I want to talk specifically about performance reviews. Now, performance reviews are awesome, and I highly recommend you do them in your clinic. But the problem is it's more the traditional performance reviews that's the issue, because usually the traditional reviews are tied to what? Yeah, their work anniversary. So if you have an employee who's coming up on their first year or second year work anniversary, they're a little nervous. They're waiting for that review to come. And are they also going to get a bump in pay? So now all of a sudden we have this thing, like my wife used to call them yay boos. It's like, yay, we have your work anniversary celebration, but boo, we have to do a performance review, right? It's kind of like when someone leaves, it's like, yay, we wish you all the best, but boo, you're leaving. So it's just like, we want to be able to understand that when it comes to performance reviews, first of all, they don't have to have a negative connotation around them, but also I don't like that to be near something that's supposed to be a celebration, right? So a work anniversary should be celebrated. It should be celebrated with all your employees, just like your birthdays for each employee should be celebrated. By the way, if you're doing like group birthdays, get rid of those, right? If you have like 8 people in October and no other months are being celebrated, like don't just have like a 8-person group birthday celebration. Make sure that every person feels a personal connection and we celebrate them on their day. Now, if someone has the same birthday, we'll celebrate the two of them, but we always want to make sure we're celebrating individually, not as a group, because people want to feel special. So ultimately, these performance reviews, when they're coupled to the work anniversary, that's where we start to run into an issue. So why don't those work? Okay, so when we're kind of looking at performance reviews here, right, and we'll call these like traditional performance reviews, a lot of time they're very like spontaneous. And they happen throughout the year at all different times. So what I mean about spontaneous is that like you might have someone in March, you might have someone in like June, you might have like 2 people in August, another in September, so on and so forth. So it's very hard to kind of, I know me specifically, it's very hard to kind of keep track of when people's first day of work is and their work anniversary. I know payroll companies and stuff do a really good job of letting you know, but a lot of times it's too late because it's just like, hey, just want to remind you next week's their birthday. And you're like, oh no, now I got to kind of scramble to put together a performance review. So a lot of times what happens is their work anniversary is coming up and then we forget, right? Sometimes we forget to do a performance review. It leaves a bad taste in the employee's mouth because it almost seems like, well, I guess they kind of forgot about me. So now all of a sudden we're going to scramble a little bit, right? So we're going to do a little scramble here. And now all of a sudden we're going to try to get some surveys out, to our staff members. We might throw together like a performance review quickly, and then it just kind of falls flat. Right. So it falls flat a little bit. So what's kind of like the alternative to this? So this is where we like to call these things fiscal, right? So we do more fiscal performance reviews. And the reason why we call them fiscal performance reviews is what we do is we look at an owner's kind of calendar here, right? We call this like the yearly trends. And we kind of see like when do evals kind of dip a little bit over the course of the year. And everybody has a season where like you guys are crushing it and then all of a sudden there's like a little dip and then you come back and you start crushing it again. So for most clinics, this is in the summertime, right? And then usually between June and August. So it would make sense for this practice in particular to host what's called fiscal performance reviews during the summer season. Right. So if you think about it, summer months, not a ton going on here. Visit volume's a little bit lower in most clinics. So we have some opportunity to be able to implement some things and roll some stuff out. So July usually is our what? Q3 planning meeting. And now what we can do is have our Q3 planning meeting. And then the rest of the month of July, you could do your fiscal performance reviews. Well, why is that important? Well, that way everybody on the team is going to do the reviews, right? So you're going to do a review on yourself, which by the way, I like to see the staff's perspective, right, on themselves. So how do you think you're doing? Then we're going to do, the peers are going to review you. your leadership team is going to review you, and then possibly even the owner is going to review you as well, right? And you might even get some patient feedback. So this is what we call a 360 review, right? So now all of a sudden, like you are going to review yourself, but let's say there are 4 therapists, 2 admins, and a rehab aide. So this is going to be a 7-person team. So you're going to review yourself, but then what you're also going to do is review the 6 other people on the team. So everybody's going to review you, and then you are going to review everybody. So that way, every single person on your team is going to have their own profile of how they view themselves and how their peers view them, and then give them feedback on what's going really well and what are some different areas of approval. So we've already had a bunch of owners switching over to fiscal performance reviews, and the feedback has been awesome, because now what it is you're doing the review all at the same time, right? You could, all your bonuses, all your wage pays, all that stuff, you could kind of save up for that throughout the year, right? And if anybody asks for that stuff, say, hey, we don't do any of that stuff unless you have an asset you want to bump their pay. But we'll be like, we do all that stuff during our fiscal review season. So just want to let you guys know that that's in July. Any new hires that you have, maybe in the quarter 1 or 2, could easily get like a 6 months review, and then they're on your yearly cadence. So all your current people know that, like, hey, every summer we are going to have our reviews. And then once you're done, you're done. You don't have to worry about it for the rest of the year, versus having very helter-skelter spontaneous. Now it's more formal, right? More formal and structured. The other thing that I really, really like about doing these kind of like fiscal performance reviews is you get to put them in the one thing I really love about these fiscal performance reviews is that you get to put them during that season, possibly where retention matters. Okay. So if we think about it, right, most of the time during the summer is we might see a little bit of a dip in visits and then an increase here towards the fall. So if you guys are kind of strategizing appropriately, also in July is what? It's the biggest hiring season. So a lot of our new grads are going to take their board exam here in July. So what that is going to allow you to do is hire in July, and then you're going to onboard and train here in the end of August and September. So what does that do? Well, it's going to take your focus off of your current staff, and it's going to put it on the new staff, right? So what you would want to be able to do here before you're going into a busy season is you want to make sure all of your current staff does their fiscal performance review right before your biggest season of the year, which is usually going to be in the fall. And you do a fiscal performance review with all your team members to get them refocused, right? And usually when you get refocused, you set new goals, and then we have an increase in energy, right? So now all of a sudden we have our staff that's locked in and dialed in for the rest of the year. And then ultimately we're able to use that time to train our new staff members and then be able to retain our current staff members. So hopefully that was helpful for you guys to see. Now, in order for you to implement this into your own company, go ahead and kind of look at your seasonal trends and figure out what season makes the most sense, right? It may not be the fall or the spring because you were busier. And usually around the winter time, it's a little chaotic with end of the year annual planning. So we're big fans of that June, July, or even early August to do your fiscal performance review. So first of all, you want to look at it, find it on the calendar, and then let your team know that you're going to be rolling this out. And I promise you guys, you're going to love them. They're great, and they save you a lot of time, energy, effort, and grief. So if you guys enjoyed some of this content here, just go ahead and click the button below to be able to like and subscribe. And then also, if you guys want more of this kind of content, just post a comment below. My team will be able to see your information, relay it back to me, and I'll be able to get you out more of this information. So I appreciate you guys. See you on the next video.